Well, hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Eek Acres. I gotta say, I don't like making videos while laying down, but sometimes there's things that I just have to talk about, and I feel that it's very important, and I think that it might help somebody, but this is not the way that I choose to do a video, but it just is what it is. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the difference between all the things in your life that are the same, that have the same outcome, versus something that you pray for, and when God answers that prayer, how and why it's so different. That's how you know a prayer has been answered by God, is because you won't be able to compare it to similar things. You just won't be able to compare it to similar things. It will always stand alone, and it will always be on a higher plane that nothing else can match. And so I'm going to give you an example to try to convey what I'm talking about. And I'm going to use, let's say, relationships as an example, because I think everybody can relate to relationships, whether it's friends, an intimate relationship with someone like a spouse or a boyfriend, girlfriend. Well, there was two things that I wanted more than anything in my life. More than anything in my life. And it started when I was 17 years old. And throughout my life, over time, I always prayed about these two things often. And though those prayers weren't answered during those years, I never gave up praying about it. I always made it clear to God what I desired the most in my life. And it was only two things, nothing more. And the years went on and on and on, and years turned into decades, and nothing came of it, but I never gave up praying. And then, out of the blue, God abruptly answered those prayers and gave me both of them at the same exact time, at once. That actually happened. And so I want you to look at this piece of paper. Take a good look at this piece of paper, because this is what I'm talking about. Below this line, the series of dots right here, were relationships that felt very empty. They didn't feel real. They felt fake, unsincere, fleeting, felt wrong. Everything that you could imagine of a relationship not being right. And then God brought me my wife. And you see that dot high above the line, above these dots down here? My relationship with my wife is so different that it cannot be compared to anything below that line. And that's because these relationships weren't made and brought together by the grace of God. But my wife was. And that's why she's up here, where she can't be compared to anything in my past at all. My wife was one of the two things I prayed for since I was 17 years old. And this is a true story. And I had an image of her in my head. I knew what she looked like. Don't ask me how I knew what she looked like, but I knew what she looked like. And I had this image in my head. And I knew that if I ever ran across her, I would recognize her. I knew I'd recognize her. And I'd say, there she is. But over the years and over the decades, I never saw anyone that fit that description. I never saw anyone that looked like her in my mind. I just didn't know where she was. I didn't know where or when I was ever going to find her. I had no idea. And then when I finally met her, and she showed me a picture of herself when she was, 18, 19 years old. Because when I was 17, I had this image in my head, and it never changed. It never changed. And when she showed me a picture of what she looked like back during the time of being a teenager, like when I was a teenager, it floored me. It was the girl that I saw in my mind all those years ago. True story. It was the girl that I saw in my mind. And the craziest thing is that back when Bridget graduated high school at 18 years old, she showed me items that she kept from when she was a kid. And she had this poster that, because Bridget is an artist like me, Bridget is a fantastic artist. She can really draw good. And she made this poster. And on that poster were two names. Her name and my name, Kevin. And she never even knew a Kevin, dated a Kevin, didn't have a brother named Kevin, no Kevin living in her neighborhood. And she said she don't know where the name came from, but on the poster, and she showed me this poster from way back all those years ago that she kept. And it had mine and her name on it. And when she showed me the picture of herself, it was the very picture I had in my head. I believe God gave me the image of what my future wife was going to look like and who she was. And that really blew my mind. And it shocked her as well. Because she says she never knew throughout all those years where that name even came from, to write my name. And my second prayer was to always live in the woods. I always prayed to God if I could just live in the woods one day. And God answered both prayers. And God spoke to me one night when I was out here in the backyard. This wasn't that long ago. It was just like a week and a half ago. And it was a warm fall night, clear sky, no wind, no weather. And the stars are out. And I was standing just outside my bedroom window here, out by Gigi's pen. And I was just looking up at the night sky, at the stars. And the weirdest thing happened, that I was getting like a download coming from above, this information, but God was using my voice to repeat what I was receiving and then speaking it out loud as I'm looking up. So as the information was coming down, I was repeating what he was saying to me, but using my voice to speak it back upwards. Kind of like speak after me and repeat everything I say so you hear it and you get it. And it was coming so fast that I was afraid I wasn't going to remember it all, because it was just coming so fast. everything. And I was telling myself, this is important. I need to remember this. I need to remember this. But what he said to me, in a nutshell, that I repeated out loud with my own voice, is that he brought this property to us. He wanted us to have it, even though there was 18 people interested in it. And he said it was only to be had by us. Because he told me that he was disgusted with the neglect that his creation, I'm not talking about the house or the pole barn, I'm talking about what's on this property that God created. Man built the house. Man built the barn. That wasn't God's doing. He was telling me about this property here at Eek Acres. He was disgusted that it was being so badly neglected and disrespected, and that they did not appreciate it. And he told me that he knew Bridget and I, who love nature and love the outdoors and love God. He said, I knew you would be the perfect couple to take care of this property and to undo all the damage that the previous people did to it. This is what he told me. And he said, though he knew it would be very difficult, he knew that the two of us, with determination, could do the work. And he said, it won't be too much for you. It will be hard, but you'll be able to do it. Because he didn't like the way this place was. They threw tires in the woods, car rims, tractor parts, discarded old metal fence posts, beer bottles, beer cans, garbage bags, computer monitors, dumbbell weights, tarps, trash bags. You guys, you would not believe the amount of trash that was on this property. And God brought it to us and gave us a job to do. And he says, I want you to be the stewards of this property and to take care of it and to see it for the blessing that it is, because it was God that made it possible to live here. He's the one that made it possible. This was an actual blessing by God. And he knew it was a beautiful private spot and that we would love it and enjoy it and take care of it and clean it up and make it the way God wanted to see it done. And that's what we did. Now you might say that sounds crazy, but it goes further than that. Because I was asking God, when Bridget and I were looking for a place, and I was asking God, talking out loud in my van as I was driving, and I was on my way to the store. I was on my way to Dollar General, which is just 15 minutes up the road. And I was asking God, where are we going to be? Where are we going? Because I knew we were moving, but I didn't know where we were going. And I prayed to God and I asked him, I says, please give me a sign. Please give me a sign and let me know where Bridget and I are going to live our lives. And this is an honest God true story, you guys. And on this day, in the evening, I believe it was a Sunday, I pulled into Dollar General and there was only one car in the parking lot. And it was the worker's car that was working in the store, the clerk. And it was off way to the other end of the building. And I pulled up right out front. And there was nothing out front of the store, nothing, except one skinny display rack. And it was all black. And it had a sign at the top of it. One sign with one word on it. And I parked right in front of it. And it was the only thing out there on the sidewalk in front of the store. And that sign at the top of that display rack said one word. Eek. Out of all the words in the dictionary and all the words in the English language, what are the odds right after praying to God to give me a sign of where we're going to live. And I pull into a store and there's only one display rack out front with barely anything on it. And it had one sign at the top and it said Eek. I then knew, because I knew this place was up for sale. And I went back and I told Bridget, and she couldn't believe it. Because we knew the auction was coming up on this place. And I says, I think we're going to be the ones to get that property. And sure enough, we did. And just like with relationships, how this property came to be was different than how all other properties came to be. And when something is answered by God, it's not comparable to any other similar experience in your past. It is set way above anything else that you experienced in your life. That's how you know it's from God. Because God doesn't do things where it's similar down here with other things that happen in your life. When it's done by God, it's put so high above everything else. That's how you know God answered your prayer. And it can be a property, a relationship, a job. It could be anything. That's how you know. Because it's not comparable to anything else that you ever experienced in your life. He sets it way, way apart. So you see the difference. So you understand the difference. And he says, I'm not like everything else. When I do something for you, I take it all the way to the top and show you just how special and unique my answered prayers are. That everything else down here was just you trying to make things happen. But when he makes things happen, it's in a league of its own. Thanks for watching, you guys, and we'll see you again in the next one. Bye-bye.